Heyo, it's Deep Convos. We're your hosts, Meg and Fran. Hi.
Hello. We are here today to talk about working at home during this time. So that'll be our main theme for the day. But first, we want to talk to you about what exactly we're about. So this is going to be, as our podcast title says, we're going to talk about different topics that really resonate with both of us from our different perspectives. So that's what you can expect from these podcasts. And we're also going to have guests starting next episode. So get ready for that. Meg, do you have anything to add before we go into how our weeks were?
Yeah, sure. So I guess a little blurb about what this podcast is all about. We know that there's tons of podcasts out there. Since the quarantine started, you've probably started consuming more podcasts in general. So this is something that we've always wanted to do as a little side project. Hopefully it will grow into something bigger. But right now, just the topics that we plan to talk about are things that are truly our passions, and that's health and wellness and spirituality. Specifically, all of those things integrated together into just overall health and wellness. And we thought, what better time to start this little project than now, since most of the world is in quarantine, So we just wanted to put a little bit of ourselves out there just to bring some joy and different perspectives into your life from a, I don't know, Filipino American millennial
perspective. And
yeah.
Meg and I, we already talk so much. Like when we talk, we talk a lot about deep stuff interspersed with really silly things. So this is basically that in podcast form. So hopefully you're entertained while at the same time the topics we talk about resonate with y'all. And that's why we're also bringing guests too, because we both know it's not just our perspectives that people have. So that's
Which, by the way, if you are a personal friend or acquaintance and you are interested in becoming a guest, let us know.
At us.
Holler for $1.
You don't even. Yeah, I don't have any dollars. But yeah, we're gonna have our info at the end of the podcast and also in the description below. So yeah, that's our little blurb. Let's just talk about.
Let's catch up, yo.
Let's catch up. By the way, did we say that we're sisters? That's the other.
Yes.
That's the other
we
thing.
We came from the same place.
We're also sisters. This is why we talk about so many random things. That's it. That's the last.
Welcome to Deep Convos. We're so excited to have you here.
So stoked.
Yeah. So why don't we catch up, sister?
Let's catch up.
How was your first?
Oh wow. I wasn't even done saying my question, but okay. My week, it's like week 7 of being, socially isolated. But as we already talked about, it's been great. It's been like a forced retreat initially, but now I'm like, this retreat is actually feeling good. Like I actually needed that for my soul. So this week has been great in terms of I'm privileged to be able to work from home. So most of my days are consumed with that. But then in the evenings, I'm either chatting with my actor friends about we analyze TV shows, or I'm in acting class. I have a scene study over Zoom. That's been really fulfilling for me. Catching up with friends, or just taking time to myself, either journaling or meditating. Just a lot of self work. I mean, it sounds like I'm so zen all the time, which a lot of the time these days I am because of the work I've done. But there are times when I'm just I feel really anxious about this whole thing, or I'm really angry with my roommates. But for the most part, it's been good. And today I took a walk outside and it's 70 degrees. So hey,
yay.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah, sorry, I put myself on mute so people can't hear me breathing. But
smart.
I don't think I've been as, I mean, I've been productive, but I don't have a lot of the same different things on my plate like you, but that's because my situation is different. So should we like tell our listeners what our circumstances are? I feel like,
Yeah, we should
you know.
probs do that. Yeah, we
So
should
like,
probs do that.
who the hell am I? I'm Megan. I'm married to my husband who I met in Morocco like I think 2 years ago now. So the two of us have been traveling together for a while. If you're my friend, you know all of this already. You're like, okay, Megan, shut up. We know from your Instagram. But we've been back in the States now since January. And I'm very, very happy and fortunate and blessed that my husband is here with me. You know, where our goal is kind of to start a new life together in the States. Um, yeah, so that's where we are. I started a job as an instructional designer. That's kind of my field. If y'all don't know, I'm like a teacher, trainer, corporate instructional designer. I love what I do. And I started a new job in Salt Lake. But we're living with my parents right now. So that's kind of like my circumstance because from all that traveling, my husband and I need to save money. And my husband, his name is Mo, by the way. Still needs to get his high school diploma. So in a nutshell, that's where we are. I have been working from home, obviously, because of the quarantine situation. Um, that comes with its own challenges because this is not our house. This is my parents' house. My husband and I are literally in a bedroom at the moment. We obviously want to get out and get our own apartment, preferably in Salt Lake. Um, but of course, that's kind of been put to a halt because of the quarantine, because it's hard to kind of see apartments at the moment. So there you go. Quick nutshell. Who am I? How has my week been? A shit ton of work. Is it okay if I curse?
Yeah, cursing is fine. This is our
Okay,
podcast.
great.
Anything goes.
Yeah, so a shit ton of work. Again, I love what I do, but it's kind of like, I was actually talking about this with my coworker. It's very hard to set boundaries for yourself and draw those clear lines of, okay, this is my workspace and this is my home space, because you're in the same space all the time. So maybe that's something we can talk about later, but that's kind of been
Oh,
a big
definitely.
challenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been a big challenge for me this week because the work has ramped up because of some people leaving for my company, which I'm very sad about. But it's ramped up and it's very hard to be like, okay, it's X time to log off. It's very, very hard to do that. So that's kind of what I've been struggling with this week, despite me loving my job. And, you know, I didn't really get to see the sun until today, basically, because it's currently Ramadan, for those of you who don't know, the month of fasting for Muslims. So my husband and I have been on a very kind of strict schedule. Um, okay, but overall, I'm doing well. And that's kind of where I'm
Ooh,
at.
that was like you had like a little loaded sigh at the end there.
Yes.
No, you've been going through a lot, dude. That's a lot. I guess my background is I'm an actor in New York. But I have a day job. So that's who I am. Oh, and I'm Fran. I'm the Fran half.
Yeah, she's the older one,
I'm
more
the older
responsible.
sister by age, but not by
Maturity.
maturity or lifestyle. That's really all I've got.
No, you're like totally did not even tell your life story or a snippet.
I mean, in a
Why
nutshell,
are you an actor? Like, hello. Where did
it's
that
a
come from?
long and constantly evolving story, but um it's really long. It's really like I became an actor. I started out because I was giving a presentation at work and I was terrified and I was like, actors know how to be in front of people and are not nervous ever. I'll take an acting class. That's the solution. And so I took one. It's not even like it wasn't like a studio to really, it wasn't like Uta Hagen studio. It was like a random like studio in Boston. I was like, oh, it's free, not free, but like acting 101. Oh, and it's cheap. But then like I fell in love with like, oh, it takes actual work to tell stories in this format. And I fell in love with the craft. And long story short, yeah, I took acting classes at night until I eventually ended up in drama school in London. And then now I'm here, like, firstly to pursue acting, but now I have a day job because acting is fucking expansivo. I like debated whether to say the F word because you debated. But I said it. Anyway, that's my life story. It's still constantly evolving. I'm still acting, but also like I value the financial part of it too. Like it's important. I did the whole 5 jobs thing. So I'm not going to do that in the near future because I got loans, baby. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. But anyway, if I can interject and kind of do another little plug for our podcast, that's something like a running theme that we want to integrate in everything we talk about is not just health and wellness, but making sure to put your passions in life at the forefront. Like ever since you quit your day job in Boston, like however many years ago, and you started like your whole acting journey, I've really admired that. And, you know, obviously mom and dad are not happy about the debt, all of that. But to me, I mean, this is so cliche, but when I'm 5.6 years old or whatever, I don't want to look back on my life and be like, yay, I went to work and I went home and ate dinner and watched Netflix. Like, I want to be like, I really followed my passions. Yes, there were risks involved. You know, like I quit this job and I forged into the unknown. Like, I went to this new country and I took this master's program, but you did it, you know? So even though like things are not financially a deal, like you followed your passion. And I don't
Yeah,
know, to me,
totally.
that's part of happiness. That's part of the happiness formula.
No, totally. Wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
And that passion topic, actually, we could discuss that in the Girl Boss episode too.
Yeah. Coming
Yeah,
up.
little teaser. We have a Girl Boss episode, but yeah, I have so many thoughts on that topic. So
Yeah, same.
for sure.
So,
Okay, should we dive into the main topic,
yes,
which is
which we're
working
very excited about.
home? Excited slash I have just so many thoughts on this thing, but you can go first because you've been having like a stressful work week. So
Uh yeah, I guess like I guess this section is going to be like our tips and tricks to be productive from home, but we want to put our own spin on it and hopefully provide you with ideas that are different from what you've already heard from the millions of podcasts and YouTube videos out there. So, for example, you've probably heard from people, oh, productive work from home tip number 1, make sure you have a clean, dedicated, organized workspace. And you're probably like, yeah, I know. Like, where am I going to work? Like, my trash can? Okay, so here is my tip for you guys, which has really been working for me. Um, it may depend on the nature of your job. My job is kind of like technical and creative at the same time. Again, I'm a trainer, so there are parts of my job where I need to write things and script things because it's going to be taken by learners, right? So for me, my tip is be mobile. You know, so you probably, if you're working from home, if you have that privilege, you have a dedicated space in your apartment, in your house. You know, maybe you have a desk in a corner somewhere, maybe you have your own little room, your little dedicated office space. My challenge to you this week is, I mean, if you have a laptop that's connected to a monitor, unplug that laptop and take it somewhere else in your house. You know, take it to the kitchen, make a little makeshift standing desk for yourself and work an hour standing up in your kitchen looking out the window. Or if the weather is nice, which it should be because it's getting warm, take your laptop outside, you know, like roll out your yoga mat and, you know, don't show your video in your meeting. Lie down on your stomach and take your meeting like that, which I've been doing a lot. And my team knows that. And I'll tell them, hey, I'm on my stomach right now. I'm sorry. It's at that point in the day, I just need to like stretch out.
oh wow,
Um,
you've done that. That's
yeah, I do it
I've
all the
never
time
done that.
actually. Um, yeah, so that's my tip for you is you're working from home now, so take advantage of it. You know, no one's there to judge you. Like,
Yeah.
take up space, move around, be mobile. You may find that it gets your creative juices flowing. I know for me, it's also nice because the nature of my job is so sedentary, and I know I'm not speaking
Mm.
for myself.
Oh
So
yeah.
just making sure that you integrate those little moments in your day where, oh, I think I'm gonna work the next couple hours at my porch because there's a desk there and I can get some sun. Just
Yeah, and
finding those,
it's sort
yeah.
of like on that. It also kind of sort of replicates like an office environment in the sense that when you're in the office, you're not just, glued to your desk. You're like, walking to
Mhm.
the kitchen, maybe sitting at the high tables if you have them. Um, you're just working in different place. You're going into a conference room that's empty to work there for a bit. Maybe you have a standing desk, like a movable desk that you're moving up and down. And doing that at home sort of replicates that mobility that you're talking about. So I
Mhm.
like that
Yeah.
idea.
So that's my tip. We've
Yeah,
been loving it.
I love that tip. I am a master of making a standing desk in the kitchen with like like right now my setup is like 3 thick recipe books. You've seen, I think you saw the picture.
Yeah. You put it on your Instagram, right?
I'm going to link it. You know, link my Instagram picture in the description below. But yeah, my setup's like 3 recipe books, like the perfect setup for me. 3 recipe books that are thick AF, and then like a yoga block. Wait, I'll show. Oh wait, no. Well, podcast listeners won't see this, but YouTube viewers will. This. So 3 recipe books and then this, and that's like the perfect height for my head to like not be craning forward. Yeah, you want to avoid the crane people, the
Mhm.
crane neck. Yeah, I totally agree with your tip. Um, if I could add to that tip, not just okay, so yeah, totally be creative with where you're working, but also just like I think you do this pretty well from what you've told me, but like you give yourself breaks to like stretch, like frequently, not just I mean definitely for your body. We're not meant to be sitting in this position for like 8, 9, 10 hours a day. That's like that's why we all have back problems and hip problems.
Yeah.
But also like our eyeballs aren't meant to stare at these like fucking screens 8, 9, 10 hours a day, like nonstop.
Mhm.
And we're already looking at our phones all the time. Like from the moment we wake up, the moment we go to bed, we're looking at a screen. So like um my tip that I should also follow more frequently is like just to get up and stretch and like or even like just looking. I like work next to a window, which is great also, but I mean not always great because it's fucking loud, but like it's great in terms of like I can see the sun and there's like some trees, so like I just like look out
Yeah.
there for like I don't know 5 minutes.
Like there's a world outside of your little work
Oh
vortex.
my gosh, yeah, it's easy to get sucked into a work vortex and like not because we're especially now, like in the office it's easy to do that, but especially now because we're not really talking to anyone, like
Mhm.
except through like instant messenger or whatever, or emails, or like the Zoom meetings or whatever. Like we're not physically talking to anyone. So it's, yeah, it's easy to get sucked into that little work vortex. So it's good to like look out and see like, oh, there are people
Mhm.
walking around and stuff.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, stretching, yoga, whatever, 3-minute meditation in between,
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. I
totes.
guess like along the same vein of that is something I'm trying to do for myself, and I did mention it earlier in my little like here's who I am, is I really try to set a cutoff time for myself to avoid that whole falling in the work vortex. And let's be real, this week I did not meet that at all because I just had a lot of work.
Oh
But I
my
try to
gosh,
be
yeah.
like, by this time I am gonna freaking sign off, like I don't know, maybe when we were all working in the office it was 5 p.m. and that was easy, but now that we're at home and we
Yeah.
have those breaks, the work day, I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone, has naturally become longer. For me,
Yes.
like because of Ramadan, I'm basically up before dawn. I do my little personal morning routine. Then I'm usually starting work or ramping up for work around like 7 or 8. So you would think, oh, she starts work at 8. She's going to log off at like 3 or 4 p.m. No, despite that, I am still working till like 7 p.m. some nights, and I don't like that. So it's a combination of those things, right? And like knowing how to work those two strategies together. Yes, integrate breaks for yourself, but make sure that you are signing off at a proper time in the day so that your morning and evenings are your own personal time. Because like no
Yeah.
one likes to be like, I'm waking up, work, eat dinner, go to bed. It's like then your whole life is just work. You
Yeah.
really set those boundaries.
Right. Like when you were talking about personal space versus workspace, that incorporated with that is time, personal time and work time. And it's what you're saying. It's easy to bleed personal time into work
Mm-hmm.
time, which is the danger zone. When that starts happening, you're like, I need to either like practice better time management so that I'm logging off at a certain time, or just like practicing like, okay, this task can be put off to tomorrow, like
Mm-hmm.
which goes back to like prioritization, like which task do I really need to do today. And because I know, and the other thing about working from home, like even before COVID, working from home, I'm already less productive working from home. It's just you're set up in a way that you're not as productive really as, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe some people can be, but I know for myself, like already so many more distractions because it's my personal home. But like add to that the COVID situation where we're already drained from like this emotional and mental stress of just what's happening in the world. So like we're already less productive. So I think it's even more important to be like, where can we cut off and how can we do that? Just making that clear to yourself. Right?
Yeah. And in terms of like making that actionable, there, I mean, it depends on your personality. Like maybe you can have an accountability partner who texts you and like, hey, it's X time. Are you ramping off work now? Or just making sure you have a solid organizational system. You did mention prioritization. That's something that I have to do in all aspects of my life because it's very tempting, especially for people like me. I don't know about you, but I thrive off of productivity. I love that feeling when I've checked off, like, oh, yes, like I accomplished 30 things today. But I don't know. I also, on the flip side of that, if I make a 30 item to do list for myself and I only get 3 of them done because I wasn't being realistic, then I feel like a failure. So something that I do is I make sure my to-do list is realistic.
Yeah.
It has few items on it that are actually the main priorities of the day. And like you said, be very, very clear for your day and for the week what needs to get done on which day, and just being super clear on that and having a solid system, perhaps accountability system outside of that, will help you make sure that you stay within those boundaries and you are feeling productive and not like a failure if you haven't achieved
Right.
everything.
I think it's so, I definitely 100% agree with you, but also like that you just touch on like how you talk to yourself too. Like we really have to be kind to ourselves, especially again, especially now. Like if you don't finish a task you were hoping to finish. I mean, obviously if there's a deadline, like it's something you need to talk to your manager about, like, oh, I wasn't able to do this. But like if it's just something you wanted to do today, but now you have to push it to tomorrow, like not being like vocally violent with yourself, like, or just like, fuck you, like, why don't you get that done? You're such a like what you said, you're such a failure. And that way of talking to yourself, it's just a vicious cycle. Like you would think it would be like, oh, if I like self-flagellate, I'll do better next time. But there's a way to be constructive with yourself that's not destructive with yourself. Oh my God, someone make a t-shirt.
Wow.
Someone make a t-shirt. Are you writing this?
Guys, we're gonna have a merch
Oh my gosh.
store.
Can we have a merch? Like I don't think it's too early to talk about merch. Whoa. But cracking myself up. But seriously, yeah, there's a way to be constructive without beating yourself up, because when you beat yourself up, I don't know, speaking from personal experience, like how I grow is by being my biggest supporter. And if I'm not, I'm sort of self-fulfilling being a failure. I'm the self-fulfilling that when I talk to myself like that. So I think that's also, like you touched on that, is very important.
Yeah.
And my accountability partner is my boss. We're actually the same age. Well, I think she's like actually a year younger than me. I'm 31, she's 30. But she's like so good about checking in, and not not in a micromanaging way. She's not like, did you get this done? Did you get this done? She's like, is there anything I can do to help? Like, are you doing okay? Like, especially now, because we're not, like, when I started this new job, so I just started this new job like a month ago. We didn't even work together on our projects physically together at all. Like when I started, it's all been remote. Like my onboarding's been remote. So she's been really great about like checking in, because all we have is virtual communication. So I know not everyone is lucky to have a very understanding manager, but if you can have that openness with your manager, that would be great, because then you would feel comfortable being like, by the way, I wasn't able to finish this because like I've just been feeling really drained and like burned out, and then hopefully your manager can be like, wow, thanks for being open about this, like what can we do to blah blah blah, like you can troubleshoot. Yeah, that would be, I don't know if you have any other thoughts about that. I don't know how your relationship is with your manager.
Yeah, I'm also very open with my boss, and thankfully like my company is super great about that kind of thing, like just knowing that people have a life outside of work. And I actually just, like, another tip came to my mind that, well, let me start with like a mini anecdote. So I also worked as an instructional designer in my early 20s, I think like, I don't know, like 3 years ago now, but I would get in that work vortex, right? And I would like work late and then I'm like, oh, I have to meet that deadline. And my boss would tell me, Megan, this is not open heart surgery. Like, yes, I know that we're already late for this deliverable, but if you don't get this to our SME or whatever, like no one's going to physically die on the table. And I just want to mention, like, there are people that is their job. They, especially during this time, they are the nurses, they are the surgeons, they are the firefighters. Like, I know people have those kinds of jobs where they do have to take it very seriously. But I'm sure the vast majority of us, average Joe people who are just like, you know, like you and me, it really is not open heart surgery. And if you don't make that deadline today or that deliverable, no one is going to physically die. And
Right.
that just puts it in perspective for you.
Yes.
You know, I always remember that when I'm in that work vortex and I'm like, have to meet this deadline. I'm like, well, why? I haven't slept in like 2 days. I haven't eaten lunch yet. I haven't even peed. Why is this more important than my personal wellness? You know?
Right. And if you're starting to think those, well, yeah, put it into perspective. That's very key. Like, but when you're starting to feel yourself, because that's all anxiety. That, I mean, I'm sure people are getting more and more of those types of thoughts now because we're already anxious, like it's in our bodies. So I'm sure it's like those thoughts are more frequent. Yeah, keeping it into perspective. But I would also, this really bleeds into like my personal practices too for personal life. But like, I just think I'm risking alienating some people here right off the bat. But like, I really think meditation is so a key, like, because it's not just key, it's a key. Like when I add an before a word, it's like very important to me. Meditation is a key because like it just like trains your mind to be like, okay, I'm starting to think negative thoughts. I'm starting to feel anxious feelings. It's helping you stay with those thoughts until they move through your body, as opposed to like pushing it down. And it's gonna like, and when you push things down, they're gonna explode in another time that is very inconvenient for you. And that helps with work too. Like once you're feeling anxious about work, about a project that's not even a big deal in the grand scheme of things, then you have this tool to like kind of, you know, deal with it. That's my little extra tip.
Meditation. Yeah. When you mentioned meditation.
No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, wait. What do you...
Well, it sounds weird when I do it. But anyway, when you mentioned meditation, my mind automatically went to like morning and night routines. And I just want to tell our viewers, we're going to have a dedicated episode for that another time, right? And that's because like this episode is more about like during the daytime productivity and taking care of yourself during COVID. So we're going to have more of those like personal stuff, self-care stuff in another episode. But I do want to briefly mention that because one of our tips for you guys is the concept of schedule and structure, right? We're in a different environment now. We're always at home. So we have to rethink the way that we schedule our days and that we bring structure to our days. So for me, the morning routine is absolutely critical. My night routine has been really failing, guys, but my morning routine is something that does not sway. And that is because, like I told you, I cannot just simply wake up, wash my face, and sit my ass down in the chair and start working. Like I need something in between that to be like, okay, I'm having like my own personal time right now. And part of my morning routine is meditation. And it's setting that like really positive intention for my day and reminding myself like my work is not my life. Yes, I love what I do, but regardless what happens at work today, regardless what comes up, I choose to be, or I am, you know, affirmative. I am in this positive state. And no matter what happens today, like I am going to be in this positive state. So yeah, and I just want to like tell people too, like if you're not spiritual or whatever, and you hear the word meditation, you're like, gah, like, dude, like you can meditate in the shower. You can meditate when you're walking your dog. You know, meditation simply means like being comfortable with your feelings and just being in the present moment, you know, and being in the present moment, especially in these COVID times, you don't know when your quarantine is going to end. You don't know like when your office is going to open up. Wouldn't you rather be in the present moment and, I don't know, enjoying the sunshine that's on your face rather than projecting into the future and being in that world of what ifs or how long is this going to take? I don't know about you, but I prefer to be in the present moment. And that's what meditation is all about.
Same. I agree. We're going to take a break soon, but I want to add to that real quick. I want to be in the present moment too, simply because the other thing it does is like, it also puts you in control. Like when you don't, because like meditation is also just like, and being in a present moment is simply just allowing. It's like allowing, like these thoughts are happening. COVID is happening. You're just allowing those things to be happening and not letting them have power. Obviously, like if you're infected, like, I mean, it's having, but like the thoughts of like those anxious thoughts or those like emotions, they're going to happen. Like you're going to encounter, or you're going to encounter like a traumatic situation too. Like things are going to get sad. You're going to get angry with your roommates. You're going to get angry with your partner. But yeah, being in a present moment, allowing those things to happen and being like, this is happening and I'm allowing it to happen. It puts you in control as opposed to like, oh no, it's happening. I'm going to go into a spiral and it's like, I'm just going to curl up in my room and like, let it just do me. As opposed to being like, okay, this really unpleasant thing is happening. What is it doing to my body right now? Let's like take a look. It's like basically just like taking a look and being like, okay, it's going to pass. It's going to move through. I mean, I'm simplifying, but like it puts you in a little bit of control as opposed to like letting everything control you, which is such a hard way to live. It's like such a hard way to live like that. Like it's letting everything like affect you so much to the point where you're kind of crippled emotionally. So
not everything is worth stressing over, and it's the simple metaphor of the river. You are choosing to swim with the river instead of against the river.
yes,
a lot of our stress and anxiety, COVID or not, is because a lot of us are swimming against the stream. Whereas if we just kind of like let go, we stop trying to swim and we just flow with it. You know, regardless if the situation is bad, sad, happy, whatever, you know, it's life. You know, those things are going to come up, like you said. But it's your mindset and your attitude is something you can control always. That is always your power.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I try to set that intention and those reminders for myself in the morning before I start my workday. That way, no matter what happens, I'm just like, dude, I'm fine. Like, and I'm always going to be fine no matter what. My fineness, I don't know if that's weird, is not dependent on these external things. That is always internal and something I can always control.
Right. Like even if no one has your back, you have your back. Like you yourself have your back and you can always rely on that. We're going to take a break, and by break,
for our non-existent sponsors.
Okay, our sponsor, which is ourselves.
Yeah, we're sponsored
by ourselves right now, and also the sunshine because we're both in sunlight.
And hopefully in the future, I buy direct because you mentioned mentioned not staring at your screens for too long.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. I buy direct. This is one of our tips is make sure to wear blue light. I'm gonna take it off though. It's the weekend. I don't put that on.
Yeah, we don't need to do this right now.
But wow. Now we're gonna go into our okay, calm down. We're gonna go into our segment called What We're Loving This Week. It's like one of my faves. I know we didn't ever do this before, but it's one of my faves. So Meg, what have you been loving this week? Can be anything.
Well, I'm pretty sure you've loved it this week too, but I have totally not been loving. It's done in the past tense. I have loved the show Unorthodox. I saw Netflix BT dubs, but anyway, that was my sister's suggestion. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just jump into a show that's not Grey's Anatomy or The Office. And oh my gosh, I think it's just like a 3 or 4 part series. It's kind of
4
like
parts, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like longer episodes. So it's like perfect if you're like, I want to watch something like a movie, but not really like a movie, you know, and I want to do it in this week. Well, there you go, Unorthodox. So basically it's about this, what do you call them? Hasidic Jew woman, like very, very traditional kind of Jew, because there's different kind of Jews. I'm sorry, guys, I'm not educated in this, but she lives in Brooklyn in the city Williamsburg, and she is just really feeling stifled by her community. And she's recently married in an arranged marriage. There is all this pressure to have a baby, and it's just like, OMG, this is really stifling. So it's all about her trying to escape that and look out after herself, which by the way aligns with their podcast theme of like,
girl boss.
First. Yeah, girl boss, and like putting my health and happiness and wellness first. And that's kind of what this character is all about. And the acting is fantastic. I've never
Oh
seen
my gosh,
these
she's
actors before.
great.
She is wonderful. Everyone in the cast really is wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
the
just,
mom, did you know the mom was in the movie The Descent?
oh, I didn't know
Oh
that.
my God. Anyway, just
Wow.
a little tidbit.
Yeah. So anyway, it's really, really good and just really beautifully filmed, and it's like
Yeah.
drama. Would you say it's drama? Yeah, it's
I would say
drama.
it's drama. Yeah. Oh my God. I cried my eyes out. Are you kidding me? Like ugly cried.
Yeah, but it's great and y'all should watch it. It's just a little 4-part episode. Oh,
Yeah. It's
sorry, a 4-part show.
4-part show, 1 hour each.
Yeah.
You have time. You guys have
Do
time.
it.
Wait, anything else you're loving this week? This is a
Well,
10-minute segment. Just
oh,
saying.
okay. Well, that's like unorthodox. And then
You don't have to, but I'm just.
no, yes, I have another Netflix recommendation, and you're not going to be happy about it. Guys, I know you've been on your social media and you've seen
Oh
all about Love is
no.
Blind. If you
Oh,
have
okay.
not hopped on that Love is Blind train,
Ugh.
go ahead, ding that little bell, tell the driver, please stop the train so I can hop on so you can get your ass on that train. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
not hopping on that train.
It is the perfect, like, this is so freaking stupid, but I cannot tear my eyes away from the screen.
Wait, is it the one where they can't see each other? Like,
yeah, so it's about these
okay.
people, these like different people looking for someone to basically fall in love with and get married with. But the whole catch of the show is this phrase sight unseen. So it's about like, it's an experiment. Can you fall in love with someone without knowing what they look like? Just like, so it's like these people going into pods and they're like, okay, the timer starts, you have an hour to like connect. So they, like purposely you're being forced into like these deep convos. Hello.
Good tie-ins for podcast here.
Going past like the small talk of, oh, like where do you work? Like what do you do? And but the questions like, what is the meaning of life? I don't know what these people talk about, but anyway, it's really hilarious and very, very stupid. But
wait, what do you mean you don't know
really
what they talk about? Like,
I do. No, they do tell you, but I just can't think off the top of my mind as an
Oh,
example
okay.
because it really is deep. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Wow.
These people.
So this show is actually deep, like for real.
That's the only deep part about it. It's the conversations
like,
they have.
Really?
Everything else outside of it is like just pure entertainment because eventually they have to leave those pods, right? Some of them do fall in love, they get married. After they get married, they actually see each other. And then the experiment expands. It's like, okay, can this love actually last now that the physical aspect is thrown in?
Wait, is it like Marriage at First Sight where they have like experts like matching them or
No,
what?
there is no matching. They are matching themselves. That's the thing. They are brought into this environment.
Gosh,
right?
this
The girls live together.
dangerous.
The boys live together in the house, and then they have these dedicated pod time where they go into these pods.
Yeah.
So people who are watching our video, pod 1 girl, pod 2 boy, stuck together, cannot see each other. But
Okay, quick cues. I know we're pressed for time. Quick cues. Just do them real. One, okay. Are there any like, is it all heterosexual pairings or like, are there any?
Well, actually, yes, it's mostly heterosexual pairings, but there is one certain character who is, I think, trying to push that.
Why are you saying it like that? Like certain.
I don't want to spoil nothing.
You said certain.
Certain character, I'm trying to enunciate, who is kind of like trying to push that boundary, and it causes some drama on the show. But unfortunately, yes, it is mostly heterosexual.
I mean, I assume.
I wish it was more diverse, but it's still entertaining.
But it's a Netflix reality show. But the other question is, are they all pretty? Is there any average Joes that like, can I go on it? Like, what the fuck? Like,
I believe that's how they scouted their contestants, is they actually went just on social media and scouted people that way. So these people are literally fresh off the streets. I mean, yeah, but a lot of them are good looking, and there's some that, I don't know, it depends on to me, they're all fine. No one is like Brad Pitt.
That's because you're hot, and so you're like, yeah, they're.
Well, yeah, I know I'm hot.
They're normal because I mean, that's average for me.
Yeah, I'm saying like.
I mean, I'll take a look, but
that's kind of the nice part is how they were scouted. They're not like. They really
didn't
are
like audition. Yeah, they're not like actors.
They were approached.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, guys. So I have here my serious recommendation, Unorthodox, and my fluff. Like, I'm going to drink a glass of wine and just get wasted tonight. Sorry, more than a glass of wine, the whole bottle. And I want to get wasted. And I need a really stupid show in the background. Boom.
No, that's fair. My Rex. Well, I did love Unorthodox, but we already talked about that. I'm currently watching. there's been a lot. I've been consuming a lot of media, just TBH. But recently I've been watching Mrs. America. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's an FX show but for Hulu, which is weird. It's like an FX for Hulu show. Like you can only watch it on Hulu, but it's an FX show. Confusing. But so it's set in the 70s, like, you know, like the women's lib movement. It like started in the 60s, but it like dives into the 70s when they're ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. And it's basically, it's Kate. It's like a huge cast of women that are like amazing. So Kate Blanchett plays Phyllis Schlafly, like the Republican woman who's like I think she, you know how our politics are so fucked up? Like, it's basically like, it doesn't matter what people want or women want. God bless you. I didn't hear it, but I saw it. But she started the whole like personal, like there was a scene of her debating, I don't know if you heard of Betty Friedan. She wrote The Feminine Mystique, and she's like,
yeah, I know that.
Yeah, she's the so-called mother of the women's liberation movement. So there was a scene with like Kate Blanchett playing this Phyllis Schlafly. She's a monster, but she humanized. I'm sorry to call a woman a monster, but she was. Oh, it's so frustrating. But Kate Blanchett and the writers portray her with some humanity, which is great. But there's a debate between her and Betty Friedan, who wrote The Feminine Mystique, and Betty Friedan's arguments were based in fact, whereas Phyllis Schlafly's were based in just emotional rhetoric a la Trump and like his people. But because she was like twisting her words and like emotionally attacked Betty Friedan instead of using facts, she was able to win that debate. Like she came off better than the person who was actually stating fact-based things. So like it really goes into like these things are happening now, and they're like commonplace, but that's really when it was starting. And she sort of kind of spearheaded that type of politicizing, which is crazy because she's a woman and no one's attributing it to her. It's funny because she was like putting down the women's liberation and feminist movements, but ironically it's like no one's acknowledging her efforts for that. But anyway, she was that first type of Republican, not first, but like one of the original ones. It's so good. I made it sound really boring, but it's fucking amazing. And Rose Byrne plays Gloria Steinem, you know, like with her her long hair.
Yeah.
Her long hair. Like Rose Byrne really like captures Gloria Steinem talk.
Gloria Steinem is gorge.
She's so good, and Rose Byrne is gorgeous, and like she like just copies how Gloria Steinem talks, but like she still has that power. Like Gloria Steinem was a very powerful woman, like very outspoken, but like very calm and like I don't know.
Why are you putting your hair?
Because her hair was like all over, like all down. So that's my rec, and I know we have 1 minute. So my second recommendation are
squeeze it in there.
It's really quick. Rotis, like those flat Indian flatbreads. Real easy, guys. Just take flour, salt, and water. Mix it. Like look up the rest. Google it, guys. Google it. It's 3 ingredients. You have it.
Google it, guys.
And then like if you don't have a rolling pin, use your freaking wine bottle because we all know you're drinking wine or like liquor. Like use that liquor bottle. Roll that shit flat and then just fry it on both sides and just with oil. And then you got some rotis, baby.
You can even throw some garlic in there.
Throw some garlic in there. Throw
and
whatever
herbs.
on there.
Herbs. like the British and Australians say.
You can go cray cray. Okay, let's calm down. But like you can put whatever you want in the flour. But I'm saying basic. You can be a basic about it and just I don't know what that means. But that's what I've been doing, dipping that shit in everything. That's what I've been loving this week.
That sounds really good.
Everyone take that tip. Now,
another note from our non-existent sponsors.
No, we're going to dive back into the main thing
because we don't have
any sponsors. So back to the main topic. Oh my gosh. Where were we? Can you take the reins? No stretching.
I shaved my underarm, so it's appropriate. Sorry, guys.
This is a podcast, so no one can see whatever you're doing unless I put this up on YouTube.
It is deep combos, so
when I put this up on YouTube, I'm gonna blur your armpits.
Yes, you could pixelate them.
Yeah, I'm gonna pixelate your armpits.
This is rated R. Okay.
Okay.
So let us jump back
Jump
into
back in, dude. So like where we came from was the morning routine meditation. That's where
so
we came
that's where we
from.
left off. We left off on
Yeah.
a spiritual note. That is actually what I'm most excited about this podcast is we're gonna have that like productivity aspect, but what we're trying to say is it's important to have that wellness. We call it spiritual, but whatever you want to call it, like basically remembering that it's not just you in this world, like you are being taken care of. Like for me, I don't know if you're religious, like the universe always has my back, you know? If the situation is undesirable and I'm like really tired of swimming upstream and I choose to flow with the river, I know that whatever happens, it's going to be okay. So that's kind
Yes.
of like where we left off.
Yes.
So
I know
why
what
don't
I think we should dive into
what?
unless you have it off
Oh
top.
no, I'm just trying to be gracefully transitioning into
Oh
something.
no, it's no graceful transitions here.
Okay.
Here's we should talk about. Let's dive into like what can really challenge that mental grace.
That mental space.
That mental space.
Well, you're the one with roommates.
Thank you. Oh my God, you read my mind. Okay. This is what can really challenge your mental space, your productivity, your physical space. You're literally sharing your physical space with these people, your noise, your oral escapes, oral AU, okay? People don't calm down. AURAL, okay? Like you're hearing these people, your roommates or your partner or your family might also be either working from home and on conference calls or like they're fucking cooking and they're like, hand me the flour, or like watching.
They're making the rotis.
Or they're making the rotis. They're like, hand me that wine bottle, I need to roll it flat. Or like maybe they're like watching Fox News. I don't know what they're doing.
That's our parents right there.
Yeah, I don't know what your situation is. I mean, I know I'm talking about
you know, but
yeah,
okay.
but the listeners. But I'm saying let's dive into that challenge because that is, I feel, an unprecedented, because when you're in the office, everyone's in the same company, you're working and you have the same goals, meet the company bottom line. So like everyone's everyone's oh no, I'm losing it. Everyone's doing work like under the same goal. But when you're at home, when you're in an apartment, especially I live in Brooklyn, it's a tiny ass apartment. I have the smallest room, so I live in a box. So I do what Meg's advised, which is like I try to move around the house because I cannot stay in my room. I would fucking just I would go blah. I didn't want to say crazy. So
Sounds like a bug being squished.
yeah, I would squish myself like a bug if I didn't change sceneries. So I find that's been my biggest challenge, and I'm still sort of navigating around that. But I mean, things have changed recently in that my other roommate, so I have 3. So here's my setup. I have 3 roommates plus me. So that's 4 people total in this apartment. One of my roommates actually left because his parents have an Airbnb upstate New York. So lucky him, he's isolated. I mean, that's not lucky, that's sad. But anyway, he let us use his room. Like if we need a change of scenery, we can work in his room because he has like a high desk. He has like a chair next to the window. So that really helps. So that's been helpful for us. But there's also the kitchen. And if you're making lunch, like that's another thing we have to deal with. Like we're not packing lunch anymore to heat in the microwave. We're not buying lunch out. We're making lunch at home. Everyone else is making lunch. But anyway, one of my roommates also works from home, but it was a temp job, so she just ended it. But anyway, when she was working from home, we would have to navigate like if she talks really loudly, guys. She talks really loudly. So that's something.
Is she gonna listen to this podcast?
No, because she doesn't follow my Instagram, and I don't really talk to her about anything I do.
Okay, good. Continue.
I mean, she does though. I'm not insulting her. I'm just saying she does. I think she knows it. And the other problem, the issue is she has a cat. So she can't fully close her door. Because then the cat will just, when the cat's out of the room, he wants to go in. When the cat's in the room, he wants to go out. and he makes a whole ruckus about it. So I can hear her if I'm in the common space. So it's like something I've had to navigate where it's like, okay, I know she has a stand up every day at 9 and I'm going to be hearing that. So I've got to be either have my headphones on and be okay with it, or be in my room or in Dalton's room. I cannot be, oh no, I'm revealing everyone's name.
You should put fake names.
I mean, a lot of people are.
By the way, guys, the cat's name is Ed Sheeran because he's a redhead.
I mean, I kind of like that name better than his current name. Let's just name him Ed Sheeran for this, just for the purposes of this podcast. We got to protect the cat's identity.
Yeah.
So I think make sure to communicate. Meg knows. I mean, I could be better at practicing this. But make sure to communicate with your roommates. Like, hey, if you're gonna be having the stand-up every day at 9, can you either like stay in your room just to minimize the noise the most, or like if you're gonna be in the common space, like keep your voice a little bit lower and like try to hurry up with the coffee making, and like go back in the. And I'm just saying, like, just like I could have been better about this. I mean, it's over now. I don't have to deal with it anymore. But like, that's something in hindsight I could have been better about, like communicating. Like, hey, it's actually like interfering. Like, and I can't stay in my room all the time. And I'm eating breakfast, and I don't want to eat in my room because like my workspace is also like I don't want to spill crumbs all over my workspace. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's something I would really advise people is be open with your roommates, whoever you're living with. Especially if they're also working. I don't know if you have anything to add to. Do you have a different living situation?
Yeah. I would call that like just clear communication, and just gonna slip in another thing I'm loving. I've always loved it because it relates to this.
That's what she said.
The Four Agreements. You've probably heard of that book. I don't know the author. He's like a
Mexican I haven't.
Spiritual guide.
What is it?
The Four Agreements. It's basically like ancient Mexican wisdom of like agreements or 4 kind of principles to live your life by, to make sure that your life is like, fulfilled and happy and whatnot. One of the agreements is don't make assumptions, right? And what that means is like never assume anything about anyone, and to avoid people making assumptions or you making assumptions about people, make sure that there's clear communication both ways. Okay. Yeah. So for example, my husband, Mo, like, I don't like what he's doing. And, sometimes girls are like, I'm just going to give him the cold shoulder until he realizes what I'm unhappy about. Guys cannot, by the way, like not just Mo, guys have a hard time with a guy. You just have to tell them this is making me unhappy, because sometimes I tell Mo and then he's like, how the hell am I supposed to know you were feeling unhappy about that? And I'm like, I thought you could read it from my body language. Anyway, I'm making an assumption, right? I'm making an assumption about him that he can read my mind, when it would just be easier for me to tell him, hey, like, can you not do that because it's making me unhappy, whatever. And boom, it solves the problem where there's no lines to read between. You are clearly spelling it out. So in the same vein about like living with people. So you live with roommates. I live with my parents. Well, our parents. And actually, like, thankfully, the house is big, so it's not like we see each other all the time. Everyone has work to go to. My husband works for DoorDash, so he's always out and about. My dad goes to work early, and mom is working too now. So it's not like we cross paths very often, but, sometimes someone comes home the same time you're having a meeting, and it's just really distracting for them to go barging in your designated work office when you're in the middle of a meeting. So think about these things ahead of time. Communicate with your family, your roommates, whatever. And something that I heard has worked for other people is having little markers or signals to like let people know that you are in something important during your workday without having to talk. So for example, I think my coworker puts like, how we were all in college, like if you're having sex with someone, you put a sock outside your door. It's like the same. It's like the same concept though, right? Like, yes. Communicate with your family. Like, hey, if I don't know, if I draw the blinds down, or if the door is closed, that means, or I put the sign up, that means like I'm in the middle of a meeting, and can you please like, be considerate and not step in during that time. Because a lot of us who are sharing spaces, like we share the rooms too. Like this room that I'm in now, like this is not even my room because it's my dad's room. It's his office space. So he sometimes has to come in here and get stuff, So yeah, that's my tip. Just be clear, because hello, it's like, why would you spend all that energy? Like, I don't know, like body
Yeah,
language.
it's just
Just
harder.
say it.
Like the body language thing is just so much harder. Like, I mean, if in the ideal world, we would all be open people who can read people's body, but like
Yeah.
even me, like even us, we're like very, I would say we're both very empathetic or what's that the word? We're very
Empathetic. Wait, no, empathetic. Yes, empathy.
empathetic and not emphatic. We're like very emphatic. Well, you are. No, but like even us, like I know I always, it's a thing I'm trying to like, work with. But like I always tell myself stories like, oh my gosh, he like shut the door that way because he's probably mad because I did this thing with plates and now he like not gonna talk to me.
With plates.
But then like my roommate comes back and it's like nothing's wrong. It's because I told myself the story. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. That's the assumption. You're making
The
an assumption.
assumptions. And the old adage that we all love, assuming makes an ass out of you and me, is
Uh,
very applicable in especially in this time, like really assuming really makes an ass out of you and me because like everything is heightened. So it's understandable that we're going to make assumptions about because we're all very emotional at this time. But that just really drives the point that it's even more important to be more communicative. I would err on the side of being more communicative just because like it's just so easy now. I do this all the time. I'm just like always thinking that someone's doing something to piss me off or I'm doing something to piss them off when really we don't know. Like let's just say it. Just
yeah,
say it.
just in general, like I feel like feelings are heightened because we are all of a sudden seeing each other all the time. Typically,
Yeah.
we have like these boundaries with people, not boundaries, but like typically we don't see each other as often, you know? And like for
Mm-hmm.
those of you with kids, if you have kids, like I'm sure they go to school.
Yes.
Now they're at home and everyone's complaining on Facebook about it, right?
Oh
Like I
yeah.
gotta
I can't
for good
imagine.
reason, for good reason. But
Yeah.
the situation has shifted. So now you have to shift the way you communicate too,
Mm-hmm.
to accommodate for that.
Exactly. Thank you. That's actually another point I've been meaning to talk about is that you're in the same space like like before this, my roommates and I, our schedules barely like cross paths. Like there's one person who's a homebody, one who's like either at home playing video games in his room or working in his room or like because he has a freelance business or he's like traveling different places working on projects. And my other roommate is either in his car like woodworking shop or he's very social, like, doing various things or and has a girlfriend. So like he's either doing that or that. Um and I, as you know, even now I'm busy. So you can imagine my schedule when I was able to go out. So we never had to deal with as many things emotionally and physically as we do now when we're all in the same space, like 22/7, not 24/7, but like almost all the time we're dealing with the same with each other all the time because we're all each other's human contact. So of course, we're going to be dealing with stuff that has
Mhm.
never happened before because we never had to before. So that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is communication is number one. Is that what's your
Hmm.
takeaway with your situation?
Yeah, that's my takeaway. Like, communicate clearly, don't make assumptions. And because we are seeing each other way more often, um, just be, well, I don't know if you were planning to talk about that in this episode, but like being considerate with your space, like making sure you clean up after yourself, but also along with that, like practicing more compassion and more patience with people. Like
Yeah.
if someone is like sharp with you or whatever, just remind yourself like, yo, we're all in the same situation. We are all in quarantine right now. So if
Yeah.
someone is struggling, just try to practice a little more patience, you
Yeah.
know? Like
That's a good point. I think the last time I lost my cool with my roommates, I've had to force myself to be like, what are they going through? Like, what are they thinking? Maybe they didn't even know. And maybe they were like what's their perspective. So that's a good point.
mhm.
I wasn't planning on talking about that in this one. I was thinking in the relationships episode,
Right.
but
Yeah. You can give a little blurb because I
it's
think
a good
it's
blurb. It's like, wait, what's the blurb though?
it was about like being considerate because when you are sharing your space, especially if you have roommates like my sister, like
Yeah.
don't leave your dishes in the sink all freaking day. I mean, try to wash it within the same hour. If you're sharing a common space, just clean up after
Yes.
yourself because it is a
Right.
heightened atmosphere already. it's already more stressful and anxiety inducing as it is. The least you can do is make sure that the space that you're sharing is something comfortable and
Yeah.
pleasurable to be in.
Right. Exactly. And I think eventually we all sat, like, I was able to sit down with both of my roommates and be like, sorry, I blew up over text. But this is actually what I meant to convey. Like, in the end, communication pretty much conveyed everything. And then I was like able to sit down with my feelings and be like, maybe you should listen to what they were thinking. And so I was like, what do you think about what's happening? But yes, I think being considerate is definitely key because, yeah, it's a shared, I think just any sort of shared space is just, you automatically have to make sacrifices. Like in your room, like my room is like fucking dusty AF, man. Like I don't care. Like the only reason it looks clean is because I'm a minimalist and I barely own anything.
That's the
Otherwise,
trick right there.
that's the trick. Just be a minimalist so you don't have to clean your room.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I clean my room, but not very often. But once you're in the shared space, you automatically have to put a different hat on. Like it's just a different hat. You can't just be like, yeah, this is also my space, baby.
This is my crib.
My crib, I don't know who this is, but you can't be that person in this situation.
Yeah.
But we're gonna broach that topic
Yes, that's
in
coming up.
granular detail in the relationships app. We should wrap it up soon actually, but do you have
Okay.
any other thoughts about working from home? Any
Um,
caps,
um, um, um,
takeaways?
is this strictly like working from home? Or are we also gonna briefly talk about people who like don't have work?
Yes, include people who don't have work or don't have a typical work
Yeah.
day. Maybe they're
Maybe
like
they're like freelancers or
project
something,
by
or
project. Yeah.
side
Yeah.
hustlers
Talk
like
talk about
us.
it. Let's spend the next
Um,
5-10 minutes talking about this.
yeah, I mean, like I mentioned this earlier, I'm a big fan of like schedule and structure. That's just the way I am. I love a good to-do list. I love the feeling of crossing things off. Man, it is the best feeling. I cross it off, like take a big fat marker, boom, done. So if you currently don't have work or your work situation is different, right? Try to still have that structure and that schedule and make some opportunities of productivity for yourself. Maybe now is a time to go on Skillshare and take a class.
Yeah, Skillshare,
I mean, we're
sponsor
not
us.
sponsored.
We're not sponsored, but please.
It doesn't have to be Skillshare. It can be whatever, but maybe now is a time to just feed your mind, right? Like, I know, like, even on the weekends, I try to have little pockets of time where I'm working, like, I'm doing work, but work for me, whether it's learning a new language, like spending some time on Duolingo or whatever, or doing some research on something that I've always wanted to learn. Or now that it's Ramadan, I'm being forced to be creative with my cooking. So, like, maybe doing some research on recipes. So, make a schedule for yourself, put some things on your to-do list that are like things that you are genuinely interested in. But that's still kind of like feeding your mind and growing you. That way
Yeah,
you have that sense of productivity. That's my
right.
tip, because I practice that. Like I am employed, thankfully, I'm very blessed, but in my spare time I try to infuse those little moments of not, because like when I'm off work I just don't want to be watching Netflix all the time. I want to have some of that
Yeah,
productivity time where I'm feeding my mind. I'm growing my brain cells instead of killing them by watching Love is Blind.
right.
You know?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I actually feel the same way as you. I'm also fortunate to be employed Monday through Friday, but on the weekends, it's actually very hard for me to just, I don't know. It's hard for me to just sit and watch something. Like I actually watched 2 episodes of Mrs. America this morning, but then after that I was like, I need to like do something for myself.
Right.
That's nourishing. So I took a walk.
Oh yeah, exercise. I totally forgot to mention that. Keep your home workouts going, guys.
Exercise. YouTube is fucking amazing.
Yeah. And
It's a
usually
treasure trove.
usually if you are subscribed to a gym, a lot of them are doing like
Oh
their
yeah. They're
they're
little
streaming
apps.
something on
Yeah.
Instagram, or they usually have an online program going on right now. So make sure
Yeah.
that you
I know Blink Fitness is doing some stuff if anyone's a Blink member. Or yeah, walks if you can. It's important to go outside, to get outside of your 4 walls. But also, yeah, I agree with like feeding your mind and your soul. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be for any product. I think that's what's keeping people from doing that, is they're like, oh, because I need to like have something to put out. because I
Yeah.
need to be like productive. But productivity doesn't have to be a product. I mean, I know it's in the word, but like productivity can be like, I'm working on my mind. I'm working on my soul. I've always wanted to practice. I always wanted to be a gratitude practice. Now it's the time to start. Let's try it out. And I'm like, I have a journaling gratitude practice. It's not perfect, but it's like, as with everything, it's a work in progress. And now's the time to like be failing and experimenting, because no one is around to fucking judge you, dude, except
Yeah.
yourself. And I second Skillshare because it literally, we're not sponsored. You can try any online tool, but I'm only mentioning Skillshare because they have the first 2 months free, so you can fucking back out if you don't like it, which I doubt, because they have everything under the sun almost. I told Meg, I was like, it's kind of fallen by the wayside because I'm doing acting stuff now, but like I started learning Excel and I know a lot more now than I did before I did it. And it's something, this is another thing to be doing at this time, that you can maybe schedule, block off in your empty days. It's never empty, but things that you've always wanted to do, they've been on your bucket list, but you've never had time, and now you do. Like Excel's have always been on my to-do list that I've just never had time to sit down and do it. And now I do. So like now I'm like doing random, and they're short. Like that's the other tip, is like, don't be like, okay, for the next 5 hours, I'm gonna be fucking doing this. And like, I'm gonna be so productive and immersed. But like, if you can only sorry. I know people don't sound like that, but like if you only have 10 minutes of energy, emotional energy or mental energy to put it into this, like sometimes there are days when I'm like, I only do like 5 minutes of Excel, and I'm like, wow, I learned so much in 5 minutes, and then I move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Yeah.
Like it's your day.
Another non-existent sponsor, Duolingo. I have
Oh yeah.
been loving that app for years, for good reason, because their lessons are only 5 minutes. And I'm also a trainer, so I'm like really passionate about like different kinds of training. Duolingo is a perfect example of micro learning, where it's like when we think of learning, we're like, oh my God, like lug your textbook into this 4-hour class. No,
Yeah.
Duolingo is like brings it right to you. You only have 5 minutes, or you're waiting in line at the grocery store. You can learn an Arabic lesson, Well, that's what I'm learning. You can learn a French lesson, Spanish lesson, whatever. They have so many languages, and it's such a great way to like be doing something productive, right? Like feeding your mind, but in a very short amount of time.
Yes. Okay. I know I have to wrap up, but can I just add to your micro learning thing?
Yes.
I am now learning to love micro everything. Like I'm doing micro yoga, like breaking up, doing like 10-minute yoga things throughout the day.
HIIT
sometimes.
workouts, right? That's the whole concept.
I mean, I've always been a HIIT person, but like my joints are like, can you do yoga now? But also like micro meditating. Sometimes I do like a 2-minute meditation, a 1-minute meditation while I'm washing the dishes or something. I'm such a fan of micro everything now. It's like, I think doing things like for huge chunks of time is like in one go is so overrated. Like, I mean, there's a place for it. Like I'm not discounting it, but like, let's try something else and maybe that'll work for you.
Yeah, it's like a good way to dip your toes into the water of whatever you've always wanted to try. Like if learning a language is daunting for you, start with like a little Duolingo lesson, or start with a little whatever, or like reading a book. Just read 2 pages a day, like while you're eating your breakfast or whatever.
Right.
It's like nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You can do this.
We got you.
We got you. Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up there for that segment. But we would love to hear your thoughts on it, guys. Like if you have any advice for people, like we can't cover everyone's experience. So if you have any tips or have any questions, you can either DM us on, it's not even a terminology. You talk about Instagram.
Okay. Yes. So please stay connected to us. We do envision this podcast being an interactive experience. Like you're going to see us posting, like eliciting your feedback on your, sorry. Okay. I need to stop saying that. I'm a trainer.
I like it.
Okay. Getting your feedback and thoughts on stuff. Like we really want it to be a conversation. So my Instagram handle is at meg.sales, SALES.14. And then my sister's Instagram is at Fran Sales, right?
It is. But I mean, if you could maybe direct it to our podcast.
Well, yeah, but we don't have, I think we should start there because.
No, yeah, we should start. It's fine. No, we want to be you can follow us on our personal
Okay.
Instagram too.
Yeah. So that's our personal, that's our personal Instagram, but we do have a very official Instagram.
It's not official. I mean, it is official. It's the one.
At Deep Convos Podcast, right?
Deep Convos Pod.
Oh, we're too cool for the
Pod.
cast. At Deep Convos Pod.
Yeah, you can DM us there. And what are we gonna post on it? Well, I'll talk about that later.
Keep an eye out for that because we do want to get your feedback on future episodes, which is we're gonna continue more on this topic of like how to be productive and take care of yourself during quarantine. But I think the next coming episodes, we're going to shift over to more self-care and things that are outside of the workday. So if you have any ideas or thoughts on that, or perhaps you would like to be a guest speaker, whatever.
Yeah. Everything on those. Yeah. On any of those topics or all of them. Yeah. You can either DM us on Deep Convos Pod on Instagram, or if you're more of an old school like me, you can email us.
What's email?
You can email us at deepconvospodcast. This one has a cast.
I like how you enunciated that.
At gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
I prefer email myself, but I mean, follow us on the Instagram too.
If you have a lot to say, please.
Just send us an email. Like, honestly, we're desperate. So just send us everything. Yeah, that's any thoughts about what we just talked about? Yeah, anything. Would love to hear it. Do you have we're supposed to have a quote of the day right now. What's your quote of the day?
My quote of the day.
We didn't even talk about this. This is bad.
I have an app.
Oh, okay. Well, can I just reiterate my personal quote that we're going to make into merch, which is, you can be constructive without being destructive.
I like that.
Thank you. Good. Merch.
Hashtag. Okay, this is interesting. I'm just gonna. So I have this app, guys. It's called Spiritual Awakening, and
not sponsored.
Not sponsored. And this is apparently a quote from Don Juan. Don Juan says, "A man or woman of knowledge sweats and puffs like any ordinary person, yet the folly of their life is under control."
Wait, can you say that again?
Okay, listen again. It's actually, I think, relevant to our episode.
Yeah.
A man or woman of knowledge sweats and puffs like any ordinary person, yet the folly of their life is under control.
That's like, I have to
get it?
Really chew on that. That's like.
So like the man or woman is like huffing and puffing, like stressing out over all the shit in their life. The last sentence says, yet the folly of their life is actually under control. So we magnify the stresses in our lives in our head. Remember we were talking about like, you know, things we can't control. A lot of our anxiety and stress is like we're stressing about the weather. We can't control that. We're stressing about this dude in front of us who's driving too slow. We can't control that. We're stressing about this, that. We're stressing and we're huffing and puffing over this stuff. But that's your choice. Can you control that? No. So why do you put your energy
That
there?
actual act is the one under our control. Yeah. Like, whoa, Don Juan. Spiritual Awakening app. That's what's up. Oh my gosh. Make sure to download Spitch. That's good. I like good timing.
I think that's a good note to end on.
It is a good note. Thanks, universe, for that. Thank you. Okay, stay tuned for next time, guys. It was great talking to everyone.
This is really fun.
It's been really fun.
And I look forward to the next time.
This is great. Okay, bye.
Bye. Wait, we should have a better outro.